Hey everybody, welcome to the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bello, and today I've got Matty A, or Matt Aitchison, on the show. Matt, welcome.
What's going on, my man? How we doing?
What's going on? It's great to have you on here. And I was just talking to you before I hit record that it's crazy. When I started listening to podcasts 3 or 4 years ago, yours was one of the ones that I subscribed to, and I listened to several. And now I created my own, and of course, here we are catching up. So
I love it. I love it, man. It's funny how that happens full circle. And honestly, it's one of those things that when you get in the game, you know, whether it's the game of business, game of podcasting, game of life, whatever, when you start leaning in on the things that you really want and you take action on it, it's funny how all of these, dots start to connect, and you really never know who you're going to end up either, becoming peers with or mentoring or surpassing your own mentors. So really cool to be able to connect with you, man.
Likewise, man. So I'm taking a look at your Instagram bio. I'm seeing top 100 business podcast, Millionaire Mindcast, hundreds of houses flipped, owner of Play Park, Lodge Hotel, business and REI syndicator. Man, so you do all kinds of stuff. And of course, this started with taking action, and you didn't figure it all out right away, I would imagine, right?
No, a lot of failing forward for me. I mean, it's a lot of failing every day, to be honest, which is ultimately, I think, with the right attitude and mindset, gives you the ability to continue to 2.0 yourself, whether it's certain skills or it's your mindset or it's strategies that you're using or implementing in your business or in your investing goals or whatever it may be. I'm just always looking for either those blind spots or just really the gaps, right? That based on whether or not they are needing to be filled in order to achieve the goals that I want to achieve, being really aware of what those things are. And I think that's probably a skill that has served me really well, and that I see a lot of people actually lacking in terms of just having awareness around the things that actually matter and are important to them. Because again, everybody's got a different definition of living a rich and wealthy and fulfilling life. But based on what that looks like to you, what I've found is, when I've asked people in terms of, what does a rich life look like to you, or what does success mean to you? They don't really know. It's very surface level answers of, I want to make more money, or I want more time off, or I want to be able to travel more. But if I were to ask somebody to get crystal clear on exactly what those things mean, most people, 9 out of 10, would not be able to give an actual answer. And I think that makes all the difference when you have that clarity in where you're going or what you want. It gives you the ability to at least be that much more intentional and purposeful of how you back into, or at least what roadmap you want to create in order to go out and kind of have those stepping stones in front of you to follow. And of course, make sure that you're adapting and pivoting along the way. But if you don't know where you're going and you're not clear on that, you're just going to go wherever the wind takes you. And unfortunately, that's where 99% of our population ends up in that bucket, is just living a life by default instead of a life by intentional design. And that takes obviously discipline, and that takes a lot of failing forward and being willing to fail, stepping outside your comfort zone. But those are things that, I try and push myself out of my comfort zone every day to make sure that I'm doing those things, because when I do, and even though those are uncomfortable moments or they are discouraging at times, it really is, I think, the fears and the challenges that we overcome by challenging ourselves in a lot of those areas, it turns into confidence, and it turns into things that empower you and throw more tools on your tool belt to what I call weaponize yourself to go out and fight the battle of life or in business that we are all faced with on a daily basis.
Absolutely. I love what you said there of just being very crystal clear. And I'm constantly, I'm sure we all are, I'm constantly working on it. I feel like I write the same thing every few days because I'm like, maybe I need to maybe I'm not really 100% sure. Let me write it down again, right? What's the one thing I need to focus on? The one thing that I would really love, like I'm in real estate, I mentioned, I'm a real estate agent right now. I've got a lot of clients. There's great transactions. There's not so great transactions. I'm like, man, I'm seeing what I don't like about it. What would be my ideal state? Maybe very few clients a month, or, specific clients, and refer out the rest. So I'm working on getting very granular. And I know we talked about that right before we hit record, is that right now is a great time to start talking about targeting in for 2021, how to really dial in our goals, our dreams, and really creating that plan that we're going to need to take the steps to get there. Because sometimes people have those surface level, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be successful, or travel. But they're not able to clearly define, what that outcome looks like, let alone the steps that they have placed for themselves to get there, right? So maybe we can dive into that a little bit today. But I mean, if there's anything you want to share about your story or journey, I mean, I'm curious to know, like, how did you end up where you are now? Did you start off wanting to do something else? I always love hearing the transformation story. So feel free to
Yeah.
take it any direction.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously a lot of different ways we can go. I knew for me, I was very money motivated. I still am money motivated, but it holds a much different meaning to me now than it did maybe earlier in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
But I graduated from college with a nice, fancy, expensive piece of paper that I've never used or really applied to at least get to where I'm at today, outside of the fact that, college was a great socialization tool for me. It was a responsibility building tool for me. And it really did teach me a lot about myself. But in terms of practical skills and strategy and knowledge of how to be successful in business or in, finance and the world as a whole, it really didn't give me, a ton of tools to go out and utilize in the way that, I wish education and those ecosystems would empower and equip people. With that being said, I have always kind of bet on myself in terms of I've never been the fastest, never been the strongest, never been the smartest, but I've always been one of those individuals who had a very strong work ethic, right? And I've always believed that, no matter what shortcomings you have, you can really make up a lot of gaps with your work ethic because, let's be honest, most people aren't willing to work as hard as what is required. That's a key part of that statement right there, is what is required, because what is required to unlock success or wealth or fulfillment is different for everybody.
Right.
But most people aren't willing to do what is required to get the result they want for themselves. And then they get discouraged or they become very negative or have a victim-based mentality or scarcity mindset. And ultimately that kind of spirals down in a way that just doesn't serve you in getting to where you want to go. And so for me, I've just been really good at, trying to remain humble. I call it the likability formula. I asked this question to one of my mentors a few years ago, and this is somebody of, multiple hundreds of millions of net worth. And they were inviting me to, meetings and events and on phone calls that I had no business being on. And ultimately they opened a lot of doors for me that served me in many ways of my life and in my career. And I asked him one day, I was like, David, why have you been so generous in trying to help me and, opening up these opportunities to me? And he said, honestly, man, it's just because I like you. And so I started to think more about that. And I started thinking about all the people that I like helping. And part of that reason is because I like them. I just want to see them succeed. I know that they have the skills and the capabilities to go and do it, but there's a lot of people that have skills and capabilities to go and do great things, and I just don't like them. So the truth of it was like, okay, there's something to be said for that in terms of the likability aspect or quality of getting people to maybe help you hack your way to outcomes or results that may take you a lot longer to do by yourself, or may help you avoid mistakes that you might make on your own, or may allow you to tap into networks or opportunities that you wouldn't have. And that's the beauty of mentors. And I've been able to be surrounded by people that are smarter, faster, and stronger than me who are my mentors, partly because I guess I've been likable. And I was trying to boil that down, right? And what I've come to kind of call the likability formula is confidence, humility, and value. If you're somebody who is always humble, no matter how successful or how wealthy you are, if you can always remain humble and show up with a servant's attitude, right? And just going, hey, you know what? I know I don't know it all. I know I'm not the best of the best. And even if you were coming to the table with that type of attitude, that's a very likable quality and characteristic, right? But then the other side of it is to show up with confidence, not cockiness, but confident that, hey, maybe you don't know it all, or maybe you aren't the fastest or the strongest, but you know what value, whether that's your core values or your work ethic or a skill set, or maybe what you don't know, but that you can learn. You're confident in your abilities and who you are and what you stand for. That's a very likable quality, in my opinion. And then the last piece is if you can come with a humble mindset, right, and a confident approach, and you always look to add value to other people without expecting anything in return, you pair pair those three things together, and in my opinion, that makes a very likable person. And so I've been able to surround myself with people that were probably way further beyond my reach than I deserved at those times. And yet, because I came with those qualities and characteristics as an intention in those relationships, it's allowed me to really accelerate some of the relationships and opportunities and areas of my life and in my career. And so I started in real estate, working for a guy for free, basically, for the first year of my career. And I learned a lot. And then I started and built my own real estate team. And we, in a few short years, were 2 years back to back Wall Street Journal top 1,000 real estate teams. And we had really started to build more of a team. But I realized that really wasn't a passion of mine. At the same time, I started investing, which is really one of the main reasons I got into real estate, was not to be a realtor for my entire career. It was to use the vertical income that I was having to show up for and work my butt off for and trading time for money for, to leverage that income into horizontal income buckets and more passive income vehicles. And as I started investing in real estate and started flipping houses and then started to try and keep some of those houses, and then I transitioned into buying some commercial strip centers, and then that led me to the Play Park Lodge and the hotel, and really just kind of going up a little bit higher in the ladder in terms of, what asset classes can help me get to where I want to go and when I want to be there by. And commercial real estate was a lot more congruent in synergistic. So doing some syndications, we did some laundromats this year. We did a 150 unit apartment out in Houston, Texas. So those are kind of the things that, have led me to where I'm at today. And really, for me, it's this all-inclusive lifestyle. Yes, I want to have a big business and I want to, make as much money as I can, but I don't want to do it at the expense of not spending any time with my children and having a thriving and sexy and amazing relationship with my wife and getting to create memories and experiences with my family and my loved ones. I know a lot of people who say they're family men or family women and they run a business when really they're a businessman or businesswoman who happens to have a family. And I didn't want to be one of those people that, was financially well off and bankrupt in my health and my relationships and my ability to give back to other people. I really wanted to study and approach how I could live like a millionaire in all areas of my life. And that's ultimately what led me to, creating my Rich Life Planner and my goal setting course, and just that overall ideology of you can have it all, but it does take planning. It does take intention and purpose. And if you can get clear on what that definition is for you, we can get that much more intentional about how we create a plan and kind of lay out some breadcrumbs on the trail for you to follow to find your way or fail your way into that design of life for yourself.
That's really cool. And I'm starting to find that I'm in those situations now too, where people are taking me under their wing, so to say. I'm in a book club that I got invited to. I'm the youngest person on the call, right? I just turned 30 this year. I'm actually based out of Houston, by the way. I know you said you bought an apartment.
There we go.
Here in Houston. So my ears perked up a little bit, but yeah, I got invited to a mastermind. And this lady's got Texas is cheaper than places like California and stuff. So I don't know, multiple $1 million home. We went to this book club thing. Like, we met in person for the first time, socially distant and safe. And she had plenty of space she had a tennis court and a pool and a huge house. I think it was on an acre lot.
Nice.
And I am by far, the most humble, like rolling up in my Honda Accord person. Like, hey, it works and it's great. But I'm like, why are you guys inviting me? And it's always really exciting to hear when they find that I can bring them some sort of value, like the technological millennial side. Like, hey, you guys should use Calendly links and booking. Why are you doing this the old-fashioned way?
Right.
But at the same time, I get so many nuggets because there's a guy who owns an inspection company. There's a lady who closes 30 or 40 loans a month, residential loans. And then there's a broker he is the one who invited me to the circle. He's been in the business for 20 years, closes so many deals. And now I'm starting to see, like what you said here, if you're being confident, humble, and you're adding value, you start to find that you get invited to those circles, because he reached out to me. That's how I engaged him. I never actually reached out and made an ask or anything. He just invited me one day. But I was going to ask you that question of, how did you start to get into those circles? Did you kind of make an attempt to align yourself, or did you start going to masterminds and just from adding so much value, you started to get similar invitations to those inner circles?
Yeah, it's been a little bit of everything, to be honest. I was fortunate to have a mom that was very invested in personal development. So at a young age,
Awesome.
12, 13, 14, in my teens, I was getting dragged to kind of personal development,
Tony Robbins
based seminars. So that bug was kind of planted and fostered in me at a young age. And then at the same time, I'm in sports, so I've always been a competitive guy. So I like to be in competitive environments and be around the best and learn from the best and study the best.
Right.
And so that led me to, as I got into my professional career, investing in paid coaches. I've been in masterminds my entire career. GoBundance is a millionaire mastermind group that I've been a part of for about 6 years. So getting around like-minded individuals was a way to cross-pollinate and kind of learn from those who are a little bit further down the path, or maybe had, a balance sheet or a business model or a lifestyle or a reputation that I wanted to model after. And really just, I've always believed that we grow into the conversations and environments around us. And, in my teens, I got expelled from high school. And part of the reason was I was spending a lot of time with people and environments that were opposite than what I wanted. And so my audio said, I'm going to be successful and wealthy and amazing and this and that. But my video and what was actually playing out in my life and the actions that I was taking was completely incongruent and not synergistic with the audio. And that was a big part of because of the people and the environments. Vice versa, when I started hanging around 9 other millionaires, lo and behold, right, I started to learn and adopt the mindset, the principles, the strategies, the tactics that made them millionaires as well. So I'm always at least I try and remain very aware of, who I'm allowing to speak into my world and what I'm allowing to influence me. And a big part of that is I do. Part of one of the things in the planner is, doing an audit of your board of directors and the people that are in your life and the people that you want in your life. And based on those categories of, career or wealth or contribution or community or lifestyle or whatever it may be, I look at and identify kind of my top 1 to 2 mentors and my top 1 to 2 board members that ultimately I want to have in my life and do have in my life, and how I stay congruent and consistent with trying to stay in proximity to those individuals. So one of the exercises that I do usually about every quarter when I do my quarterly reflections is I'll draw a line down the center of a piece of paper and I will audit my peer group. And I'll audit my mentors, and based on where I want to go and kind of what results I've been getting, make necessary adjustments. And I know this is a hard thing for a lot of people, but I'll draw a line down the center of the piece of paper. On the left side, it'll be the multiplication and addition sign, looking for people who add value, who multiply value in my life. And then also on the subtraction and division side, people that are naysayers or have a scarcity mindset or just, are gossipers or are ultimately not, being the people that I need in order to continue moving me in the direction that I want in my life. And sometimes those are just maybe conversations that you need to have, and it just creates more awareness for you to say, hey, I'm not going to be spending as much time with you, my friend, because I'm working and focused on these things over there. And it's not that you have to kick them out of your life. And maybe some of them you will have to do that. I've had many friends, that have been seasonal friends in my life. And that's okay, because the people who really want you to succeed and who want to support that growth in you, they're going to either say, no worries, my friend. I totally get it. I understand, and go do your thing, right? Or a part of you also making those decisions or having those conversations is it's allowed me to kind of create more leadership opportunities and growth for myself by saying, hey, this is what I'm focused on. And I'm not saying there's anything bad about what you're doing or what you're focused on, but I really need my attention and energy over here. And just know that if you want to roll and rock with me, I got a seat on this bus for you, right? And so it gives others an opportunity to elevate and step their game up as well, if those goals and those things that you're going after are aligned with what they're going after. But I am a little bit selfish in the capacity of saying, it's not my job to make other people feel comfortable for them to remain in my life. I want to achieve a big life, big goals, big dreams, and I can still stay true to myself and my core values and be caring and empathetic and loving. But one of my favorite quotes is, I'm a loving human being and my standards are not. And when I think about, standards, right? Oftentimes, whether it's standards with ourselves or standards with other people in our life or in our business, we allow the bar of our standards to go down because we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or we feel awkward having a specific conversation versus calling somebody up to a higher version of themselves and pulling them up to the standard. Now, whether or not they decide to do that, that's not up to you. You kept your side of the table clean, and whatever they decide to do or how they decide to react, that is completely on them. But you can still, right, be ruthless with your standards and hold people up and accountable to your standards in love, right? And do it in a way that hopefully serves them. And if they choose to respond negatively or poorly, I can still sleep well at night. And therefore, that has served me in really identifying one of my networking kind of metaphors is the barrel of monkeys. Those plastic little monkeys, there's always one arm up and there's always one arm down. And I personally am always looking for that next person that can lift me up to a higher level and kind of sharpen the axe for me. But at the same time, I'm always looking to pull people that want to get up as well with me. I'm not just looking to leave people behind and act like I'm too good, right? That's just not who I am at my core. So there's always a way of getting to the next level and pushing and challenging yourself without sacrificing your growth, your happiness, your fulfillment to make other people feel comfortable just because they might be a best friend for the last 6 years, or they might be an uncle or a parent. I don't know, right? Those are tough things. But I remember listening to Gary Vee say this one day when he was talking to somebody, and this young kid was, saying, my dad is the biggest naysayer and is negative, and he really brings me down. And, he brings a lot of gossip and drama to my life. And he said, what do I do? And Gary Vee just looked at him and he said, you cut him out. And the kid was like shocked, right? He's like, there's got to be a better answer than that, right? And he's like, look, man, you either have the conversation and things change. And if he doesn't, what you're saying, you've had those conversations before, you either live your life down and allow this person to impact it in the way that it's impacted your life in a negative way, moving forward, and you're okay and you just got to live with that, or you have to make a decision because that is the answer. Like you said, you wanted the answer. The answer is you cut people out that don't serve you, right? And so you can't complain about things that you tolerate, and you can still do things from a place of compassion and love, but also not sacrifice your standards and your dreams and goals in the process.
Yeah, I think of the quote that says you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? I have a lot of friends where, you've probably done that too. I feel like I've outgrown some of the circles, like you said, childhood friends. I think of an example. My brother recently had a birthday and they did a little LAN party, where you plug in all the computers and you play with like 10 people in the room and you're playing Counter-Strike and World of Warcraft. And I just didn't feel like doing that anymore. I was like, I can't play till 3 a.m. anymore and go order Whataburger and get drunk. Like, I'm just not interested in that. I like going to bed early. I like hanging out with my other friends that are working out at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning. And they're just, they're productive. They're not checking out on Friday, waiting for Monday, living for the weekend. They're starting to enjoy what they do so much that it never feels like work. They don't mind doing it on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, any day of the week. And so as you outgrow them, I do send those invitations to old friends to, hey, come do this, read this book. But sometimes, they're kind of stuck in their ways, and that's okay. You don't have to bring everyone up, like you said. You just have to make the effort. And I love what you said. I wrote it down, barrel of monkeys. It's been a long time since I've seen the barrel of monkeys thing. But I was like, oh my gosh, that actually makes so much sense, where you're getting pulled up from someone else, but at the same time, you're reaching down to make sure you're pulling others up. So you're not just doing it one-sided, which I really love what you said there.
Yeah, all great leaders, in my opinion, will never stop growing. There is no finish line to growth. Whether it's mentally, physically, they are wired and designed to keep challenging themselves and see what is possible and what is capable for them. At the same time, though, great leaders are not looking to leave people behind. They're looking to bring people with them. And so the more the merrier, in my opinion, right? If I can look back in my rearview mirror and see a bunch of other people that are walking on the same path that I am, and maybe I'm just at a different part of my journey, if I can help those individuals, I want to do that. That's why I started the podcast. It's why I've created the planner. It's why I've done a lot of the things I've done, is not necessarily because they're big money makers. It's because I love knowing the impact that it has in someone's life, just as those mentors ahead of me who have have done those same kind of things and given me those olive branches has made a big impact in my life as well. So it's beyond just making money. It's making the money that you create and the opportunities that you have matter in a different way. And it definitely shows up not just on your balance sheet or on your P&L or in your bank account. There's a lot of other ways to be a millionaire and live like a millionaire just outside of money.
Absolutely. So I know you're very driven, and of course you're on a different part of your journey than a lot of people maybe in my audience or myself. I mean, we're all on our own individual journey. So I'm wondering, how do you manage your happiness? I know that the horizon factor, you're always trying to go that way, and then you get there and then the horizon changes. How do you know, or do you have any advice on how to be content with where you are but still motivated to achieve more? Because I'm kind of in that phase of hitting a goal and, oh, well, I want that goal now. You know, you just keep raising the bar. So I want to make sure to be content with what I have, but hungry to push forward, if that makes sense.
At a spiritual retreat I attended a couple years back, one of the shamans had pointed out to me, she said, you know, you are a powerful person, but you're always more excited about where you're going than where you're at. And that really hit me and resonated with me because it's the truth. I mean, and I still struggle with it to this day, where I have come to the terms and to accept the fact that at the end of the day, I am always going to be a builder. It's what I love to do. I don't like staying complacent. Complacency, in my opinion, is the killer of all momentum and success, and I like to stay in motion. At the same time, though, I can still find peace and comfort and solace in the fact that as long as I am showing up every single day in a way where I'm leaving it all out on the floor, and I know that, you know, I didn't cut corners and I stayed aligned with my core values and I did the things that I needed to do, wherever the chips may fall, I'm getting much more comfortable at knowing that doesn't really matter what the outcome is. It matters what the effort that I put out matters more to me, and staying true to myself means more to me. And therefore, the things that really matter when my priorities are remaining the priorities, those are the things that I have felt, you know, create much more happiness for me outside of the fact of just, you know, checking a box or hitting a milestone or accomplishing a goal, which, don't get me wrong, I love those things. But in my own kind of mental and spiritual journey, it's allowed me to find a lot more peace and enjoyment in the journey instead of just where I'm going or where I'm ending up.
Right. So as long as you're putting it all out on the field and you're leaving all the chips, you don't mind where the chips fall, you said. You know that your effort is there, which I think I've heard an Eric Thomas quote where it says, you know, I need you to ask yourself, you know, why are you not giving 120%? You know, you look in the mirror and you're like, I'm only giving 70 or 80. A lot of us do that sometimes because we're not playing to the fullest potential. And so it really does take having those people who can push you and hold you accountable and pull you up and help you level up in a way, because it's sometimes a lot to take on by yourself if you're just in isolation. I guess 2020 is kind of a tough year for people because they don't have that, you know, camaraderie, or those conferences aren't really happening in person. Tony Robbins events, you know, it's not the same online, I would imagine, as at Unleash the Power Within with thousands of people. So we've got to create that own energy for ourselves, I think, and just make sure to get around people virtually or otherwise who inspire us and ignite us.
Absolutely. And I think you just said a key word that I think is really important. I try and bring energy to everything I do.
Yes.
And everybody has the ability, whether you're an introvert or whether you're somebody that doesn't like talking or whether you're somebody that is, you know, very high energy person, we all have the ability to manage our energy in a way that when we need it, and we need it to show up in the way that we need it to show up to get whatever it is that we are looking to get. Sometimes you have to be very aware of your energy management. And so I think everybody has the ability to bring and show up to the things of life that matter most and that require and respond well to high energy. And it doesn't mean you have to be walking around, you know, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed all the time. But when it matters, right, if you're in a game and, you know, things are ultimately, you know, requiring you to do this to get to the boss and beat the boss and get to the next level, well, guess what? You're going to do what's required to do that. And therefore, for me, I think one of those key variables that everybody has the ability to deploy and do it strategically and do it the right way when it's necessary is to show up with high energy, because we all know those people. You know, you're around somebody that's, the Eeyore of life, right? You're like, oh my God, get me away from this person. Versus the people where you leave a conversation, you're like, man, I like that Chris guy. Like, he's just got an energy and a presence about him. Like, that's really cool. Does that mean that you have to walk around like that 24/7, 365? If you can, great. But if it's not natural for you, then no, don't. But just know when you need to show up. And I think that ultimately comes back to emotional awareness and emotional intelligence, right? Of reading the room or reading an environment or reading a situation. Sometimes you have to play the game of life strategically. Doesn't mean you have to do it inauthentically, or it doesn't mean you have to do it, unethically, or lack integrity in doing it. But sometimes you got to play the game of life. And one variable that I think will make a lot of people more successful or create more opportunities of relationships or business or anything that you want in life is to show up and bring energy.
Yes, energy is huge. And I just shared this a couple episodes ago where I went to a friend's place. They built a nice new house, like biggest house I've probably seen from my network so far. And they have a very nice neighborhood. Like, all the houses are mansions. Like, so-and-so owns a bunch of like family dollar stores, and someone else did something in real estate. And one of their multifamily apartment complex owning neighbors came by, and they introduced me. They said, hey, Chris is in real estate. You guys should connect. And the word that really stood out was that the guy said, I like your energy. You have a really good energy about you. And we ended up grabbing coffee the next week. And now I'm actually going to his home studio next month to do a podcast interview swap. And I'm going to meet him. And he said I could drive the McLaren and all this cool stuff.
There you go.
And that happened from energy. Because, if I were like, oh, hey, how's it going? He probably wouldn't have liked that energy and wouldn't have extended that invite. We wouldn't have gotten coffee, and that wouldn't have been happening. Right? So I want to be respectful of your time. I know we have probably about 11 or 12 minutes left. Do you want to dive a little bit into how we can knock 2021 out and just accomplish those goals and make sure we're setting the right goals?
Yeah, I think the biggest piece for most people in terms of goal setting, first and foremost, I would challenge everybody, if there was a year for you to plan and commit time and invest energy into really setting yourself up for success and getting some clarity in your goals and what you want to accomplish, 2021 is the year, right? 2020 has kicked a lot of people's butts, but if anything, it's taught us a lot of amazing things too. Yeah. And it's also taught us that we're all capable of adapting and pivoting no matter how big of change is required. And for me, as I kind of map out my 2021, the first thing that I would encourage people to start with, I call it the Rich Life Clarity Contract, which is in the planner. But basically, it's a series of questions. Because when I said a lot of people lack clarity in their vision, right? One thing that I hear are very surface level answers of, I want to make more money. I want to travel more. I want, a bigger house, or I want more of this or that. But it's not crystal clear. It's not granular. And so the more clear you can get, the more empowered you can become to really create and back into a purposeful, tangible goal and action plan associated with that goal. So I have this questionnaire. It's called the Rich Life Clarity Contract. And ultimately, it asks you a series of questions, because a lot of people go, I don't know what I want. Well, ask yourself better questions and you will find and create better answers. And so I created this list of questions and all of kind of the gardens or pillars or categories of life, whatever you want to call it. And it will help you, by answering these questions, get a little bit clearer in where you see yourself in 2 or 3 years down the road. And therefore, that kind of becomes your North Star. Right? When you're clear on where you're going, it becomes that much easier to create goals. It becomes that much easier to say yes to the things or the people or the opportunities that are aligned with that. It also becomes a lot easier to say no and avoid the distractions or the people or the things that aren't congruent with those goals. And ultimately, by not having that clarity, people let a lot of dirty yeses into their life. What I mean by that is they say yes to the things that they're just saying yes to because they're not clear on what it is that really they should be saying yes to. And when you're clear, it becomes that much easier to give a clean no of, hey, Chris, I really appreciate it, brother, but I am super busy and focused on doing this right now. It's just not aligned with what I'm looking to do. Maybe circle back with me in a year and let's see if we can maybe reconnect and do something together that might make sense or help you out, right? Again, it wasn't a no, you're not being a jerk or an asshole, but it's a graceful no, but it's a clear and a clean no, because you know what you should be giving your time to versus not. And so that is really where I tell people to start. And then from there, right, it's just getting, all right, what are my annual goals? I like to narrow it down to, the different categories and pillars of life in picking, let's say, 2 to 4 goals in each one. Then from there, narrow down your top 5 goals. If I told you that you could not focus on or achieve any other goals in 2021 and you had to pick the 5 most impactful, most important ones, hopefully you would narrow it down to the big dominoes that are most likely, when accomplished, going to knock down a bunch of the other little goals behind them. It doesn't mean you need to scratch all the goals that you write out, but pick those top 5 most important ones, and then we can back into, all right, if these are your top 5 for the year, let's just condense it down into a 90-day sprint. I call it the 90-day year, where, hey, if you have the ability to just now, based on these top 5 goals you want to achieve for the year, what are the top 5 things that you need to accomplish in Q1 that, if and when done, will be stepping stones to keep you on track for what you need to get done for the year? That way it doesn't overwhelm you. It's taking the elephant one bite at a time, and you just narrow down, hey, I just need to focus on the next 90 days in front of me. Once you have those 90-day goals mapped out and what those top 5 are, then it's actually creating real milestones. What is the roadmap? What milestones do you need to hit that, if and when hit by those dates, will keep you on track for checking off that quarterly goal, which will keep you on track for checking off the annual goal, which will, when you get those annual goals accomplished, keep you on track for the 2 to 3 year vision. Right? So it's just really just chunking it down, making sure that they're SMART goals, making sure that they're clear and attainable, that you can build and bake some accountability into those goals. They have to be measurable. That's a big thing that I think a lot of people miss, is how do we know crystal clear that you can check the box off and say it is done? Not subjective, where your opinion and my opinion could be two completely different things. Crystal clear. The way the goal is written is you, me, somebody on the street, your grandma. If we all read what that goal was, we all know, yes, it was done. No, it wasn't done. Right? So those are things that I think are very important. And then once you map those things out, I recommend, creating some kind of laminated sheet, or whether you want to have it in a spreadsheet. I like to stay in proximity to my goals, just like in relationships, right? If you have a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, if you said you were going to have a thriving relationship in 2021, but you didn't look at that person, you didn't talk to that person, you didn't physically, emotionally, spiritually connect with that person throughout the entire year, and then you got to the end of the year, how do you think that relationship would look?
Not great.
Look pretty crappy, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with our goals. You need to stay in proximity and relationship to your goals. Look at your goals every day. Update your goals. Reread your goals. Get in relationship with your goals. And if you do that, not only you're going to be more emotionally and physically connected to those goals, the most important piece of this exercise is, guess what? The goals and the roadmap, it's going to change. Yes. Them saying, hey, I want to get to the moon. Well, guess what? The pattern of them getting to the moon changed hundreds of times over the course of that flight plan. But what it did in terms of having the flight plan was it created awareness for them to know when they were on track and when they were off track. And that is what the goal setting process of, at least with the Rich Life Planner, and what I believe in, is by you putting in the work, not only are you proving to yourself that you're committed and clear on what it is, right? But then you can enroll other people in accountability, in support, in helping you find resources or taking shortcuts, because you put in the time and you're giving yourself more of an opportunity to stay aware, which is the number one thing in this whole process. It's just creating more awareness and space for you to 2.0 yourself, to optimize yourself, to reflect of what's working, what's not working. So that way you can scrap stuff that isn't right. You can double down on the stuff that is. And that is what a good goal planning session and really framework will help you get to in terms of an end milestone or destination or outcome for some tangible goals. So if you can do that, and again, it'll take a couple hours, and usually I'll go back to it and do a V2 and a version 3 and a version 4, right, until I'm going, okay, this is it. This is great. I'll share it with friends. I'll share it with my accountability group. And then, right, I know exactly what I need to hit the ground on in 2021, running and executing, because I'm not always the smartest, fastest, or strongest, like I said, right, Chris? But when I have a clear plan of what I know I need to do, I have no problem getting in the trenches, rolling up my sleeves, and exercising that work ethic.
And it's important, like you said there, I wrote it down. I mean, I wrote down clarity and I underlined it, because if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. I think that was an Alice in Wonderland quote. But you're right. I mean, if we didn't know we were going to the moon, then you kind of just blast off into space and just be like, are we there? I don't know.
Exactly.
I guess so. And then the 90-day you said the 90-day blueprint, where every 90 days you're reevaluating, you're making sure that you're aligning, kind of doing those course corrections throughout the year where you'll hit your ultimate goals at the end of the year. And I love what you said there about proximity to your goals, get in relationship with your goals, because that's a perfect example. If you're not with your husband's wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, if you're not seeing them all year, chances are you're not going to have a very great relationship at the end of the full year. Same thing with our goals. If they're just tucked away, in the dresser somewhere in the corner, then we're going to kind of forget, and then we'll start saying yes to the things that are distractions. I mean, this is right up my alley, because I'm like, man, I need to hear this. I have a couple of those toxic yeses where I'm like, man, I'm wasting time on this thing that really doesn't align with where I want to go. Yep. And so that's really important to just do those course correcting activities. And you said your planner helps with that. And where can our audience go to check out your planner or order a copy of
if they head over to www.therichlifestore, you can check out all of our stuff there, therichlifestore.com. And that's where we have, a lot of our resources for our goal setters and high achievers.
Awesome. And I just love your background. If anyone's watching this on YouTube, make your passion your paycheck, or into a paycheck. And then I can only see the one thing behind you. It says it only takes one yes for success. What does it say? Failure, failure, failure. And then you can read, it only takes one yes for success. So I can see you're about mindset and just the gold, black, white theme. I love that behind you in the background. So everyone, make sure if you're listening to this on the podcast, to go watch the video on YouTube as well. But Matt, I want to give you an opportunity. Do you have any last minute takeaways you'd like the audience to remember or to implement today? Maybe something that you really want them to implement?
Yeah. I mean, I would just say, I think if anything, fall in love with the process, as cliche as that might sound, and just know that, this journey is about the crock pot, not the microwave. The microwave, of course, spits things out a lot quicker, but let's be honest. If you have an opportunity to have a dish made out of the crock pot or the microwave, which one are you taking, right? The best dishes always come in the crock pot, and that takes time. Right. So give yourself time, exercise that patience, and just fall in love with the process. If you do that, and you can embrace that mentality and show up every single day and leave it all out on the floor, you can really trust in the fact that you are going to win and you are going to create a dish in the crock pot, whether it's wealth, whether it's relationships, whether it's business, whether it's health. Those things don't happen overnight. And you need to prove to yourself, you need to prove to other people, you need to prove to God or the universe, whatever you believe in, that you really are committed. This is not an entitlement mentality where you get the best of the best that really a small fraction of the people on the planet get. It's because they've done something that you haven't committed to doing for a long enough period of time. Yeah, every once in a while there's those lightning in a bottle stories, right? But at the end of the day, it really is those 30, 40-year overnight success stories where people have been so consistent. And I believe this is whatever you want in life is if you can make small, smart choices every single day consistently over an extended period of time, you're going to look up and those small, smart choices that you did consistently over an extended period of time are all of a sudden going to become big results that most people don't ever have the ability to enjoy and see because they don't have that discipline and that consistency. So that's something that I'm always trying to challenge myself on, right? I'm a human being just like everybody else. Yeah. I have those shortcomings. I have those pitfalls. I have those challenges too. But with that mindset, with certain frameworks, with the right people around you, putting yourself in the right environments, and then the right vehicles, you can really accomplish some amazing things that you can be proud of. And for me, my definition of success is to get to my deathbed, look in the rearview mirror and say, damn, that was a hell of a ride. It's not going to be how many zeros, and commas I have in my bank account. It's not going to be what trophies I have up on my wall. It's going to be looking back and saying the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. I left it all out on the floor. That was a hell of a ride. I'm proud of that. I can go and rest easy. And for me, I wish that for everybody else.
Absolutely. We only have one life, so we have to make the most of it. I love that. And so, Matt, where can our audience go to follow you, check out your podcast? Any links you'd like to share, feel free.
Yeah, obviously they can listen to the podcast, Millionaire Mindcast, on all SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, all that good stuff. I've got the YouTube channel, Matt Aitchison. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, official Mattier. So I love connecting with people that have heard me on a show. Or you can always head over to therichlifestore.com to check out some of the entrepreneurial productivity tools, goal setting resources that we have for all of our high achievers. And would love to connect with anybody that listened to the show. And I really appreciate you having me on, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you. I had so many great nuggets. I know our audience did as well. And I think we're going to be better prepared for 2021. So thank you once again.
Love it, man.
Thanks.